And Lucy?
It's hot.
Yes,
I'm
yes.
feeling hot, hot, hot. Olay, olay, olay.
Welcome, everyone, to Tacked Up, the podcast about video games and beer. I'm one of your hosts, Ben. It's a very hot episode 273. I'm here with a very hot Lucy.
Yes, I'm the puddle formerly known as Lucy. I have melted. I have opened the Ark in Indiana Jones
Yep.
and my face has melted.
As you mentioned the other day, you were like the senator from X-Men.
Yes, the puddle.
Puddleman.
Yeah,
Just
Senator Puddleman.
walking out of the sea in a gelatinous form. We're also here
What
with...
is his name?
I have no idea. We're also here with a very hot Aadil.
Oi!
Hey!
I am already shiny and only gonna get shinier, I fear.
It's the problem with being sweaty and also having a direct light. Just this patch, which looks very like just spreads through the episode. Good. Let's open.
Much like Senator Kelly worried about mutants spreading through the population.
Perfect. Let's open some beers. It's hot. Let's get some nice cool beers down us. Lucy, what are you starting with this week?
I'm starting with a Deya.
Nice.
And spoilers, I'll end with a Deya also.
Okay.
This is called Worried Dream, and it is a premium bitter, 5%.
Oh.
It looks like it was. Is this a collaboration beer with Tylees? I can't even read what that says. Some brewery in Gloucester.
Okay.
I think. There's no flavour text.
As there normally isn't with Deya, is there? They don't give us much to go on, do they?
There is actually, just on the other side of the can.
Oh.
A deliciously smooth, hoppy, and easy drinking premium bitter. Finest Brookhouse hops and a sneaky yeast blend. How is yeast sneaky?
I don't know.
Usually, you know when the yeast comes around. Brewed in collaboration with our good friends at Tylees. Lush.
Nice. Good. Aadil, what are you drinking?
To the surprise of me, because I've been a puddle all week, and obviously we're recording this on a Thursday instead of a Tuesday. I got a beer 52 in. I looked at some things. I was like, those sound tasty. I put them in the fridge days and days ago. So I grabbed the two. I put in the fridge on the weekend or something, or like Sunday or Monday. Should always double check, maybe earlier in the day. I have 2 stouts. It'll be fine, because I don't really subscribe to we must match things to our weather, but...
I don't know how you can drink like a stout or like a triple IPA in this heat. I don't get it.
Oh, I could easily down a triple IPA in this heat. But I'm going to start with this one. So this is from the Beer 52 Czech bundle. It is the Garden Brewery, which I've had several times on the podcast before, I think.
Yeah.
Their coconut and Tonka bean milk stout with vanilla and cacao and a 9 malt stout base. Exactly what you want. At 30 degrees. It has no flavor text. It is 330 ml can, and it's 5.5%. I mean, I'm mostly joking, partially joking. But like, we'll see. I also I was working in a pub earlier and had the Want to Go to the Sun, which is a very good beer. For hot weather, so I can already recommend that.
Who's that from?
I'm now drawing a blank which local brewery that is. Lost and Grounded.
Lost and Grounded, yes.
Yeah. It's yeah, it's really nice, slightly tropical. Um, Pale ale.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's like 4% and a bit.
Cool.
Um, yeah.
Nice.
It's because I keep working in that place. Basically, it's like, oh, it's dinner time, and now I'm gonna like gear down. Maybe I'll have a beer before I go and finish up whatever work I'm
Sure.
doing, and that's
Yeah.
been like become sort of the, yeah, this is a decent little, just have a beer to chill at the end of the day.
Nice. That's good. Nice little reward for getting a lot of work done. Perfect.
Yeah,
Good. Good.
especially on a week like this where you are like drinking pint after pint of water.
Yes.
Yeah. I might need to go to the toilet 8 times this episode, so.
Oh, mate. It's so hot. I haven't been to the toilet for days, mate. My body's just using everything it possibly can just to
I
keep
don't
me
know if
going.
you know this, but that means you need to be hydrating more.
um,
Just a little
well,
bit more.
I'm going to hydrate right now. I'm going to
Mm.
drink Portal IPA. I'm coming up to Birmingham from Dig.
Hmm.
This has some very, very red writing on a very bad green
Yeah.
thing that you can barely read. World famous Portal gas fixings? Yeah?
Okay. Alright.
What? Fittings?
Birmingham's
Coiling
known for
and
its
gastropub
industry,
holdings. IPA 6%. IPA hopped with Palisade Cryo, Centennial Cryo, and Cunot Cryo, and Simcoe Cryo. That's pretty much everything. Yeah, it is. 6%. It's getting water everywhere. It's all over me book, it's all over me hand, it's all over me desk. That's fine. We'll crack it open.
Love that water.
We'll come back to you, Lucy,
Mm.
to let us know about the beer.
Yeah. Very hazy. It's probably a bit more orangey on camera, but it's
Mhm.
like a dark straw. Very hazy. Right, it's basically opaque. Moreover, it's got like a very light citrusy smell to it.
Mhm.
Bit of malt. Taste-wise, it's very refreshing.
Nice.
It's got that citrusiness carries through into the flavor, and yeah, it's definitely got like a malty and bitter backbone though to it, which is nice.
Mm.
When you think of premium bitter, I probably think of this bitterness a bit stronger, but it's a bit more restrained in this. But that's not a bad thing,
Sure.
because it balances well with that lightness and citrusiness. So.
Nice. You do expect it to be sort of incredibly malty and stuff.
Yeah,
So yeah.
definitely got a lot of malt in it. They said it was hoppy on the can. It's not too hoppy, and it's not too carbonated. It's quite soft, really, but
Mm.
it still, brings out. It still evokes like the sense of a lager in it, though. So that those aren't minuses at all whatsoever. It's really nice, really refreshing. I got like a 24 pack of Deya beers because I think you can. I think nowadays you can only choose. You can't buy like packs of 6. Yeah, I think you have to choose like
Oh.
individual beers, or you can make a pack of 12 or 24 or something.
Okay.
I may be wrong. Maybe they just put on the packs of 6 on like Fridays or something. I ordered this early during this week, but yeah. After I got it, I realized I only put a few of these on it, and I was just like, this is the perfect weather. I should have got more of them, and
Mm.
it tastes good. It's really nice. So, not a well, they do all sorts of styles, but it's not one you usually see from them, like lagers or
True.
bitters or anything like that.
Yeah.
But it has got their like signature, very soft, very smooth, bit citrusy. It got that flavor in it as well. So
Nice.
good. It's nice.
Good.
Enjoying it.
Good. Amazing. Adol, the milk stout.
It looks like a cola. It's a little darker than a cola, but there you do have the reddy brown. I don't think you can see it
No, not quite.
with the light here, but it's just got a slight reddy brownness on the bottom where the light hits it. So it's more cola-y than black.
Mhm.
It's got a lovely nose. You get that sweetness. And it's rounded out by assuming the Tonka bean. Just it's a little more full than just sort of the sweet smell of lactose that you usually get.
Mm-hmm.
He's melted.
Oh.
He's no longer here. That sent him
That did
over the edge.
Yeah.
He's gone.
Did internet stall or something?
No, no.
Oh, okay. You're just watching me slowly drink.
Yeah.
This is really good. It's 5.5%.
Well, there's that at least. At least it's not like 10.
It's it doesn't quite have the viscosity that we usually talk about, but in this weather, that's kind of fine.
Yeah.
I really like the different bits of malty taste. There's a slight, ever so slight, like more acrid burnt malt taste, but it's mostly covered by just sort of much more round coffee, chocolate, like cacao nib sort of flavors. So there's just like at the back there's a bit of burnt malts, but mostly it's just the layering of the more coffee end things, which you want out of a stout. Like I said, the sweetness isn't too strong, and it's rounded out by something else, so it doesn't feel like a milk stout where you're like, ah yes, dessert. Again, which is really good for having a stout at a time like this.
Yeah.
But actually, I think it's fine. I'm not like, oh, it's probably a little colder than I would have it on a different time of day, but that's evening out, and I'm curious as it warms up, which it will very quickly. What other tastes will come out, but there's trying to figure out what the chocolate it's reminding me of is, and I can't quite place it.
Okay.
But I'll mull while you're talking. If I can figure it out, I'll let you know.
Sure. Okay. So the Dig Brew Portal IPA, lovely light nose, a little tropical, maybe a little sort of spoon for it. Have you already got it? Have you already picked up the chocolate?
A little bit.
Go on.
I think it's almost like if you had in a regular like milk chocolate, you put like, so you had a giant bar of milk chocolate and you put like one segment of Terry's chocolate orange in. There's just a hint, like one tiny bit. There's just a hint of fruitiness in there.
Okay.
I think it's not actually the orange part. I'm just thinking, oh, it's a bit fruity, and I think that might be the Tonka bean pulling some flavors away from just the strict stouty ones, and so it's what's giving it a roundness. It's giving it a neat, interesting peak. But again, it's not like orange. It's just like
maybe it's a dairy milk, whole nut, and fruit and whole nut, but without the whole
nut. Yeah, so I guess it's a fruit and nut hold the yeah, it's a dairy milk with that one segment of fruit nuts that had no nuts in it. I guess yeah. I was just thinking like, oh right, fruit and chocolate. And that was my brain went to cherry chocolate order. But
which
yeah,
is a sin. But continue.
Yeah, I don't think anyone wants to be holding nuts in this heat, do they?
I mean,
I meant the fruit and the chocolate.
Oh yes, okay. Right, this beer I really want to drink it.
Yeah, get your face in it.
Oh, that's nice. Ooh. So on the nose, you're getting a little bit of not quite dankness, but there's a slight kind of weedy hint to it. Very, very slightly on the nose. It's a lovely sort of orangey kind of colour, and you do get maybe a little kind of orange in the flavour, maybe more kind of edging towards that sort of like orange peel kind of flavour, a little bit more sort of citrusy, but it's got this lovely dank piney finish to it. It's very smooth, and actually that kind of dankness and that piney, it is a bit more piney, very, very piney. It actually kicks in quite early, so you do get a little bit of that fruit first off, but it comes sort of straight in. And you know, when we talk about, there have been a couple of beers where we've had the kind of a couple of flavours going on and working together along that quite well, and this does that. This allows there to be that little bit of fruitiness, maybe a little bit of orange, but then also that piney, dank, weedy kind of note as well, which runs alongside it. It's not one then flows into the other, or as they're moving, one overshadows the other one and gets rid of it. You're getting both of these through at the same time. And actually, it's got a little bit of an oily quality to it as well. It's not viscous, but it just coats the tongue just a little bit. It's very nice. It's very, very nice.
Lovely, lovely jubbly.
Maybe not quite a hot beer, a hot day beer, but very, very nice nonetheless. And probably one that you would, I would drink it today, absolutely. But maybe after I'd had a couple of kind of pales or something, some smaller, lighter beers, sort of through the day, or a couple of lagers or something, this would sit perfectly after a couple of lagers out, sort of sat in the sun for the afternoon. This would be a lovely beer to switch to, because it has that extra dankness that you kind of get with a lot of sort of more modern kind of pilsners and things like that. So this would follow on really, really well from that. But again, in its own right, very nice just to start my little session this evening on. So, lovely. So we're going to drink these beers, and let's jump into talking about some video games this week, or video game culture, what everyone wants to talk about this week. Aadil, I thought we'd start with you this week. We haven't started with you for a few weeks, and I know that there's a game that you've played which we can run through because I watched you play it.
Yeah, you were in the back seat on my stream
I
on
watched some of
Tuesday's
it and
first.
I had no idea what was going on.
I watched all of it, and I had some idea what was going on.
I played the Fermi Paradox, which is like the Fermi Paradox is a choice-driven sci-fi narrative strategy game in which your decisions in one corner of the galaxy can upend entire civilizations in another, guide species through millennia, and help them explore the vastness of space, make contact, and perhaps create harmony. So it's kind of like a 4X Stellaris type of game, except you're not really guiding one civilization to conquer everyone else, which I really like. It's more of, there's like, I think 7-ish like solar systems, and the game starts where a civilization arises in one of them, and you have to sort of guide it through not destroying itself, and then as the game progresses, a civilization will pop up in a different area of the galaxy, and so now you have to balance both. And then at the end of my 2-hour session, there were 3 civilizations at different levels of development, and basically the main gameplay loop is you have synthesis, which is the currency essentially, but basically time just goes until just rolls forward until a choice point, and then you can go to kind of any of the planets and pick from 3 options, and then there's sometimes options out in space, and those options will either be gather the synthesis currency, like click a thing, it'll do something that impacts that system and you'll get some currency, or if you've got like a civilization going, sometimes instead of the 3 choices, it'll be like increase dystopia or utopia meter. So it's basically 4 or 5 different meters that you're trying to balance out, and like sometimes your choices are like increasing or decreasing them. And obviously the point isn't. So for a while there, I was trying to screen my civilizations through like the Bronze Age and the Iron Age, because I've played Civilization before, and then I realized, oh right, the game is supposed to be like the intro video calls you like the galaxy's gardener, and so the point isn't make everyone meet each other. Really, the point is make everyone not want to kill each other. And it starts with a choice of like balanced race, which gives you 0 synthesis. An ideal race you have to pay synthesis for, or an unbalanced race, which will have more negative characteristics, which will give you synthesis. So we started with dinosaurs on Earth, and the humans were the balanced race, and the like ideal ones were the dolphins, and because they were obviously Douglas Adams fans. And so with the dinosaurs, we sort of started kind of in the bin towards dystopia, and in the bin towards like peacefulness. But we had good and we had a good population, but we were using our resources quite quickly. And so, you click through the choices, and it's like, oh, and then you find out that like being 20% towards dystopia is a big deal, because one choice point that happens, like you don't get to just pick. Like you never know what choice points you're going to get, and so could be a while before you get a choice point that has to deal with like dropping your dystopia utopia meter, and it went 0.3%, and you're
It
like,
was very
oh,
slow. Yes.
that's very slow. So starting 20% in the hole is a big deal. And also, I think it influenced how often things went bad on the planet.
They just wanted to fight each other constantly.
Yeah. And like that of the civilizations, the only one that hit like apocalyptic moments was like dinosaurs got wiped out almost entirely 2-3 times in the run, and no one else got like hit at all. Um, so these, yeah, so basically that's the thing, the basic gameplay loop, and then sometimes there'll be these, and then as you increase, you'll have like events, and sometimes it'll be you hit the Bronze Age, and then you'll get a point, you make a choice that'll give you like a special Bronze Age styled boost, and sometimes it's just like, you know, because of where your levels are, there's now a guy who's seizing control of the dinosaurs. Are you going to let them fight or unite the tribes, or like how are you going to deal with this? And you get, so it's kind of like Reigns in the sense of you're balancing meters and you're making choices, but a lot more randomness. And obviously the big hook is the best solution usually is spending the synthesis option, but you only have so much synthesis that you gain between getting through these. And once I had 3 civilizations going, it was like, I've just spent 30 of my 49 to make sure this civilization doesn't get fucked by this choice point. But now I'm hitting another choice point over here, and I just can't do one of the options because I just don't have enough money synthesis.
We found that
That's the
sweet
basic-
spot, didn't we? Where
Yeah.
there was sort of you always wanted to have about 30 or 40 synthesis in the bank,
Yeah.
because if something big happened, there was kind of always this get out choice, but you had to pay about 30 synthesis to be able to, you know, stop the destruction of the dinosaurs, or you know, whatever kind of extra things that they would, you know, whether it was an asteroid or something, or however kind of they dealt with it.
Yeah.
And I remember we were rolling through, and kind of some of the choices you'd made, you hadn't spent very much, you'd saved up quite a few sort of synthesis, and we got to a point, it's like, yeah, spend it, let's do this and spend it, and then suddenly it's like, oh no, we needed that. Oh
Yeah.
shit. Okay. We can. You've only got the choice of then 2 of the 3 options because we'd spent the synthesis, rather than hoarding it, as you know, as we should. Everyone talks about hoarding all of the items. Yeah.
You should have hoarded all
Exactly.
your wealth.
And games have taught us
Rare
this.
earth minerals.
Games have taught
Yeah.
us this. So, you know, you hoard all of your ammo and your inventory
Grenades.
items and your grenades and your healing items and stuff, and you never use them. You get to the end of the game like, why have I got 4,000 grenades? I didn't need 4,000 grenades. I could have been using these. So when we had the opportunity, we're like, yeah, we'll spend it. Why not? Let's have a go. No, should have kept it.
But also, I think right at the end of the run, we had just spent 30 to save something, and then
You're like the centipede people.
yeah, and then another people had like a minor event, and it was like, oh, we couldn't take, we didn't need to take the like ideal option, but we couldn't because like we had 49 or like 45 saved, and that just wasn't an option. Which I like, because that it means that you can't just be, even if you played really conservatively, you're gonna hit a point where you're just trading off between these people, which I think is what the end game looks like. Like having 4 or 5 of these would be way harder to balance. Because obviously every choice point puts all the civilizations forward by 1, but you're only really impacting like our second people were like horse people, and we spent the 30 to make the like idealized race, and they basically just cranked through and progressed way faster than the dinosaurs and had no problems, and they kind of ran themselves until, so when they did have a sort of an RNG event that was bad, it was like, yeah, okay, I can take care of you for now, but now I can just, meanwhile, except for their like big like splash events, it was just like, how do we fix our poor broken dinosaur people? Because they're always like, we've invented the phalanx. Now, do you want to spend money so that they decide it's not worth being in warfare, or do you get money by making them think warfare is great, and then it like makes a dystopia? Like it was just a
It makes a dystopia, but also you lose like 90% of the population because war just ravages the planet or something.
yeah. So and then there's interesting things like they tamed dogs, and so they became like the dog dinosaur tribe. And then and then a comet came and a volcano came and
Volcano,
killed
yes.
them all but like 700,000. And so they became the burned dog dino tribe. And then later on in the run, the oceans just destroyed their civilization, and we couldn't help it because we'd spend the money saving on the centipedes. And so then they became the wet or the drowned
Yeah, the drowned,
dog
yes.
dino
Yeah.
tribe. And like I really like the flavor. The art's really nice and simple. Like
Same.
it's really nice that it's like, if it's going to the Iron Age, the very good art is the same. It's all the same splash
Is
screens.
this
It's not
the
like
prequel to Theodore Rex? He's
oh
getting to
man.
like New York in the 80s.
I mean,
or
kind of,
90s.
yeah. We
I mean,
never got there.
Okay, I'm
Yeah.
sold. Then.
Yeah, if they, what they need to do is it's in early, it is in early access, isn't
Yeah.
it? This at the moment. What they need to do is take all of that early access money, pay Whoopi Goldberg just to
Yes.
do all of the voiceover work for the entire thing, and
I
then
would
yes,
buy this game in a heartbeat. If that was the case.
Yeah. So
Put
just
Whoopi
to
in Smash.
yeah. So I
Cowards.
really liked it. But there was a couple things which I think, given it's an early access, it's good to sort of air. So we have basically there's 5 like bars that you're balancing.
Mm.
There's your general tech age, which starts at nothing and goes through Bronze Age, Iron Age, etc. And it's just a percent level, so it's just leveling up. You've got your population, which has it's like a icon of 2 people hugging, I think, because they're like, it's actually a 2-headed person with 2 arms. It's like the bathroom guy, but with 2 heads. But I think it's supposed to be a couple. Anyway, and it's got a growth rate, so it tells you how fast your civilization is growing, which is really useful once you get a handle on like mentally. And then you've got your resource usages, and so you've got a huge storage amount, and then what's even more important is the stat beside it, which says resource scarcity in X years. So to give you an example, our like idealized horse people, they never dipped between 20. Like I think they started at 22,000 years until they got resource scarce, and by the time they teched up, it was like we ended the game when they were like 80,000 or 60,000 years into their resource scarce. Meanwhile, the dinosaurs were like always within 2,000. Like at one point, it was like 1,500 years before they would get resource scarce. And to be honest, the giant like the volcanoes killing half of all of them and like saved them from starving out. Because so to give an idea of like how different the species could be, and then they had this like dove meter, which is like I assume warfare.
Yes. Yeah.
A war meter, and it's and then it would tell you the potential war casualties and how much of the population it would be. And so at one point, because the dinosaurs had been wiped, if war broke out, it would kill twice as many dinosaurs as there were because they were so aggressive that they would have just killed it. Luckily, we didn't have war, and that's another thing I'm curious about. We never really kicked off a war. And then there's the utopia dystopia. Are you 0% neutral, or are you like 7% utopia or 20% dystopia? The reason why I'm going through describing these is because that was like the weirdest thing about the game is, so when you get to these choice points that aren't getting synthesis, they'll be like a white dove icon with a plus sign, or like the outline of the dove icon with a minus sign. And so it's gonna move that bar, and usually in these games the bars fill up, so plus fills it up, it moves it to the right. But actually, because the dove icon was casualty rate or lack of casualty rate, the plus thing would move it to the left, because the right side of that bar is more people dead, and the left side of the bar is 0 people dead. So I just clicked on the wrong things a handful of times before realizing it. But then right below it, the dystopia utopia one, the plus sign moves it to the right because it's towards utopia, and the minus side moves it to the left because it's towards dystopia. And so at the beginning of the game, it was just entirely unclear what the choices would do.
It sort of, it's almost started off kind of a little on the back foot, didn't it? Because it came up and said, make this choice. And you're like, okay, cool. I don't really understand what I'm choosing between or what I'm doing because it hasn't explained it to me. So you made the choice. And then on the next screen, it would explain to you the choice that you had just made. You're like, okay. I think
But
maybe
also,
the screens with...
it gave the key, but it didn't tell you what the choice you made. So even after it told me, oh, okay, so this was... So yeah, it didn't even give you the primer for that I just gave you, where the dove is the casualties of war type thing. You're right. Thanks, Ben, for reminding me because I forgot about that. So then you click the thing, you're like, I don't know what this does, and then it's like, here's what that did, and you're like, which one did I click? And you're like, and then like several turns later, you're like, oh wait, that one goes that way, but this one goes that way, and they're both plus signs. Like, so it was opaque. Yeah, it was just like really. I mean, this is easily fixed, but it's very odd that on multiple occasions in like the early part of the game, the tutorial will come in after you had to pick. And then, like I said, then the fact that the meters all don't have plus going in the same direction is odd. And again, opaque is nothing. And there's no like even if there was a tooltip hover over, it would help. There isn't. It's just like. And then I'm harping on this just because I want to get the stuff out of the way, but like on the events where you're like, where instead of being, where it's like this is happening, do you do the pay the synthesis choice, the no paying synthesis choice, or something that sucks and you gain synthesis for it? Like it's always that. It's just like negative synthesis, 0 positive synthesis. You can click them and then it gives you a blurb about what that means. But that makes for really, really jarring gameplay because I do a choice and I'm like, oh, I can figure out what this means. Cool, that's what that means. And then I hit OK, and then it gives me one of these other things where it's like, well, do you want to have an event? Do you want to get a generic synthesis? Do you want to have an event that minus doves or an event that plus sciences? And you're like, oh, what does that mean again? You click on it and it makes a choice. And like the fact that we don't have consistency of click submit versus click is very confusing. And a couple of times, like except for like after an hour of playing it straight, I didn't make that mistake. But even like knowing that was a thing, I would still kind of mess it up because it's like, especially after the events where like, oh right, I can kind of this is important, let me figure it out. And they're like, oh, a new choice. Oh, actually, their warfare of the dinosaurs is kind of tenuous. Do I want to click that or that? Oh, I clicked the thing and I didn't get to confirm. I've just sent it away. And the game's giving me real mixed messages on the gameplay loop that way. So that's something that I hope, and I might actually send them a note about, because I just think between the lack of signal or the really disjointed signaling that Ben brought up, and this, it's just like I could see people kind of bouncing earlier in the game just because it's kind of more confusing than it needs to be.
Yeah, and I think I commented when you were playing saying that once you'd gone through these kind of first 3 or 4 choices that you had to make at the beginning of the game without knowing too much about it, suddenly you get to a point where you're like, oh, I now understand what you've made me make choices about. Actually, I'm just going to start again rather than roll on with what I've got, because I feel like I'm now in a detrimental position to begin, life on this kind of life within this galaxy. So it's definitely one where I think a little bit more kind of communication up front would have helped to just set you on the right kind of path. And I can get the idea that they want you to kind of discover things yourselves, and if that's what they're kind of going for, there might be a better way of doing it than being like, make a choice. Now here's the thing. Now here's what you've done. Make a choice. Now here's what you've done. There needs to be a little bit more of a primer beforehand, just to set you up a little bit more. So even if you're making those kinds of choices and it is a little bit blind, at least you have some knowledge about what you're setting yourself up for. So even if you come out at the end and it's maybe with an unbalanced race on a poorly picked planet and all of this sort of stuff, you go, well, okay, fine, I can deal with the hand I've been dealt. But if you don't know what you're doing and then you get given that scenario, I think you'd be a little bit more annoyed. And again, it's another checkout point for people, I think, of them going, oh,
Yeah.
I'll come, I'm not gonna play this. I'll start again, but I'm gonna come back to it later. I'll go and do something else for a little bit, or play something else for a little bit. I'll come and check this out again, tomorrow or next week or something like that. So I think a little bit more communication up front would have helped, definitely, just streamline the experience for you a bit.
Yeah, and like you said, it's the fact that like you're on the back foot, and then you have these like confusing UI things that you have to play suboptimally to figure out, on top of the generic, wait, what am I doing? Oh, now I feel like maybe I should have started with a balanced race, now that I realize how different it is. That type of thing. I mean, then, and the fact that like to figure out how the game worked, I had to make suboptimal choices. Like, again, it's just the stack of them isn't needed, and I think, yeah, like you said, it just could deter people. Having said that, like, I really liked the last sort of 20 minutes of playing with the 3 races, and really feeling like with the caterpillar type people, the third people, the Ash, that's what they were called. I realized, like, I had figured out by going through 2 of the other races, is like, I'm happy with these guys. Like, I don't have a super warlike race that's going to try and conquer people, so I'm happy with these guys just getting through the Iron Age on their own pace versus like trying to rush them through. And like the fact that my most peaceful world was the least warlike was like, cool. Well, that bodes well, because I know at some point in this on the save file, like, things are going to happen in the middle, and I'm super curious about how that'll turn out. And hopefully I'll have some time before next week's episode to talk about it, or to play it, I mean. But like, it really did mean that like our unstable dinosaurs took most of the time, because you're like, oh, they're constantly on the verge of killing themselves or being destroyed, but also like knowing, like, so with the Ash, we spent the money to make them utopia balanced, or whatever you want to call it, just so that like we wouldn't have to worry. And so we only had one kind of rough planet, and it did start to feel like gardening, of like, oh, when these people need attention, when this thing needs attention, I'll go pay attention to it, but actually this thing's the thing that needs the most work, so I'll just pay attention to that, but I'll still check in every once in a while. Similarly, like on the onboarding, I've just reminded myself, I didn't even realize I could just hit the left arrows that are on right arrows that are on the screen, icons, and it would take me not through the whole solar system, but just through the active ones, which made going through everything a lot quicker, because I was having to zoom out of the map, click on the other solar system to see what was going on. So again, it's early access, so these are things I hope. Mostly it's like a lot of just tool tipping, I think.
Yeah.
But I am super curious about what the like end game looks like when they're not just on their individual planets. But yeah, I really liked it. I'm gonna play it some more. It gripped me the right way. It's a really neat game, and I'm hoping, yeah.
It's definitely one of those that you need a good chunk of time to put into it. Absolutely. And as you said, like, you get to that point where you'd played a couple of hours, and then you'd got to a point where you'd started to get a little bit more interesting, when more stuff was going on, when you were having to make more decisions and balance things out a little bit more. That was the interesting part of it, rather than kind of like the first hour, unfortunately. But I think there's definitely a way that they can kind of get that to speed up that first hour could actually be like the first 30 minutes instead.
Yeah.
That actually things happen maybe a little bit quicker, so you get to that slightly more interesting point.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the key, is like, as you said, if the onboarding was more streamlined, then they could, because I think what it was expecting us to have to figure out the game, giving us a second race wasn't very good, because like that's good design, right? Like if you don't think people understand the mechanics, don't introduce a secondary level of the mechanics where now you're balancing them. But actually, if they just front loaded those or added those tooltips or did something a little more tutorial-esque, then you could sort of, I mean, in the code you could easily trigger a second. I'm assuming it's not perfectly random, right? Like I'm assuming there's a trigger point of a second race choice points. Otherwise, someone could just spend 10,000 years because the RNG didn't do well, and they were just like, I just had the one, right? But anyway, like triggering a second planet, even if it was artificial and the rest was RNG for 2+ would be really good because that shows you the balancing. And if you've done the work on the onboarding, then you can trigger that much sooner, and then people get a feel for the idea of the balance. Versus with one planet, it really feels like kind of like a Civ game.
Yeah.
But with less things. Like you're not moving anything around. You're just choosing, like, as a choose your own adventure Civ game, kind of, it feels like. And then you're like, oh no, it's not this. And that's when the, like, remembering the intro video, like, you're the Galactic Gardener. It's like, right, I don't have to get these guys to space. I don't have to get these guys to meet each other and be happy with each other. I don't have to rush. It's kind of like, I think gardening is a good notion, because it does seem like the idea is just spend time, don't rush.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's I think that's all I really wanted to say this time around. Is like I really like the artwork. It's really cool looking, especially for, like, they've put a lot of splash screens and a lot of quotes and stuff. They've put a lot of effort into, and the writing is really good. There's a few spots where it's like, oh, it's the Iron Age, so if I click on a synthesis thing, it's going to tell me this thing about a guy dying or whatever. Like, there's a couple spots where the bank of prompts could be a little fuller, because it was like, I've seen that with the dinosaurs 3 times, so I knew it's now in the Iron Age. I'm going to see that with I'm going to read the exact same sentence with the Esh, and it's like, I know that takes work, but, like, overall, except for a couple of those, I think it's an indie game. We're not going to expect thousands of lines of unique prose, but I think it mostly draws a good balance. Like, on the big things like tech age upgrades, it's the same quotes, it's the same splash screens, but they're very well done and they're very interesting, and so that's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
So that's the
Good.
Fermi Paradox.
Perfect. Good stuff.
By Anomaly Games, I think I forgot to say.
Isn't Fermi to do with ants?
I don't know. I mean, the Fermi Paradox, we looked it up on stream, is the paradox that, given the size of the universe, the sheer magnitude of the universe, we would expect intelligent life to appear somewhere else, but we have so far have zero evidence that any has appeared outside of Earth. It's very likely that there are other intelligences, yet we have no proof of them. It's the Fermi Paradox.
Yeah, it's a unit of length equivalent to probably something very small. It's similar to the diameter of a proton.
Oh. Nice. Okay. Good. Bit of science knowledge for everybody as well.
Yeah.
Coming along with the game. Perfect. So, we're at a bit of an odd point where we're coming close to second beers. But we're not quite there yet, I don't think. I don't know. Really. You're already,
Screw you.
Fuck it. Go on then, Lucy. What are you drinking now then?
I can wait.
No, absolutely. Go for it. Go for it. I mean, I can nail this back. I got a big beer for my next one, so that'll last me for the rest of it.
It's another Deya. This is the Bundobust 5% Pale Ale. Did you have this, Ben, the other day?
No, I haven't had the Bundobust one.
He had the Vengabus.
Nice. Brewed in collaboration with the inimitable Bundobust. This is a juicy pale with Nelson Sauvin and Motueka at the forefront. Oh, there's a full stop there. Bright, tropical, clean, and immensely drinkable. This beer marks the first of many collaborative projects with our pals up north.
Lots of people collab with Bundobust, don't they? Which I think is a restaurant.
The Motueka and the Nelson Sauvin was like familiar. I'm sure he had a beer with like 2 of those in it.
Probably.
like last week or something, and another hop. That's why I thought it might have been this one.
Mm. No,
Yeah,
not
it's
quite.
5% pale ale.
Nice. I mean, you're already drinking it. How is it?
It's more Deya.
Mm.
It's very much very soft, very citrusy, very light. Like drinking the premium bitter, it's like, oh, if you gave me that, I probably wouldn't be able to tell it's Deya straight away.
Sure.
Tasted a bit like maybe a Burning Soul beer because they do, you know.
Okay.
Or maybe it's because I've just drank there lately and
Mhm.
maybe that's in my mind. But this is, signature Deya.
Sure. Yeah.
This is even lighter than the other one, straw coloured, same opaque, hazy look to it. Yeah, it's really light. This is like the premium bit was good for this weather, but like I think that maltiness and the bitterness, maybe you want that on a slightly less oppressively hot day. But this Bundobust one is very much like perfect for the weather.
Nice. Good. Good. Perfect. Oh.
Yeah, really
Ooh.
light, but still managing to get all those citrusy flavors and tropical flavors. So
Nice. Good.
it's really good.
Oh, it's I keep picking the wrong Deya to have on the podcast. Was it last week I had a Deya and it was sort of like super earthy and oniony?
Yeah.
It was last week. Whereas I went to the bottle shop a couple of times in the last week, and the bottle shop just down the road, the newsagents, which is sort of turning more into a bottle shop. I started chatting to the guy in there, and he said that so basically they've got this big fridge, which is probably same length as my wall, about 3 meters. Big freezer, big fridge, full of beer, local beer. There's Pomona Island, there's Deya, there's a few kind of breweries around there. There's some American breweries as well. There's Whiplash in there and a couple of other things. And he said that because I started chatting to just someone else who came in, and they were saying, oh wow, there's tons of beers, and they were like, oh, this is even better than Redland Stores. And the guy who gets all the beer in Pat's down the road said, oh yeah, we're friends with the guys in Redland Stores. We're healthy competition sort of thing. And he said, actually, we're kind of currently looking at getting rid of all of the soft drinks and all of the like macro beers that they've got in the next 3 meters worth of fridges, and just filling that up with craft beer as well. I'm like, oh yeah.
Yes, please. Yeah.
All right, sure.
It's like everything in Bristol just eventually morphs into a brewery or be a bottle shop. Like I work if I go into a church expecting to pray, like, oh, it's a brewery now.
I mean, you could probably still pray in there, but
Pray
you
to
get a beer at the same time.
beer dots.
Yeah. Absolutely. And it would be nice. Like I've had, so there's a couple of things that they put on. So the beers they got from America aren't in the fridge; they're on a shelf at Whiplash, and I think the ones that they're getting from further afield that are travelling over to them, that they don't keep in like cold store as they're travelling, they're putting on the shelves. And Vault City are up there on the shelf as well, which they can be, from what I remember Andy sort of saying to us when he was in there on the show. But hopefully they kind of then go into the fridge. The Whiplash goes into the fridge, and they then get Boundary over or something like that. It's fine. Let's just get them to do these sorts of things.
It reminds me of The Simpsons with the Hank Scorpio one, when they're saying, "Oh, we cleaned up the city," and you see like, oh, this seedy pawn shop turns into like, I don't know, this really nice restaurant and stuff like that, and then the homeless guy like transforms into like. Is it like a post box or a bench or something, or a plant pot or something? I was just thinking of that in Bristol. Like,
I mean,
no
gentrification in Bristol is slightly different than everywhere else, isn't it? Yeah. It's not cafes and stuff like that. It's just beer. Just all beer everywhere. And that's fine with me. If Bristol wants to gentrify and it's beer related, I got no problem with that.
Yeah. No,
that's
wrong
okay.
with
That's okay.
Again.
Aadil, we will come to you next. What's your next beer?
It's this one, which I'm pretty sure I read neon and thought it was another beer, and that's why I put it in the fridge. But it's a neon stout.
Oh.
Whoa.
Mm.
It's the Varionika Neon Stout. A firm favorite at our brewery, this beer will win you over with the exceptional fullness of flavor obtained by combining several specialty malts and cereals. Well balanced with a full-bodied mouthfeel supported by notes of black coffee and chocolate. Rich, creamy chocolate. It's brewing. It's a mere 6.2%.
Okay. Nice. Little bigger than the last beer.
Yeah. To be honest, though, the last beer, my suspicions were correct. I don't think I have a problem with having hot day stouts.
Yeah.
There's
Fair.
hot girl summer and there's hot stout summer, I guess.
Cool stout summer. Because
Yeah.
you refrigerated them, right? So it's the cool.
Yeah, I mean,
stout
it took them
summer.
out reasonably early. This one's like, I think, a more ideal temperature.
Yeah.
The last one opened up a bit, but it was mostly just the depth of the flavors I had already described, or just a little more open at closer to room temperature.
Fair. Nice. I should really bring a bit of like kitchen roll or something up with me on this during the summer, because again, this next beer has just left a puddle where it sat as it's just condensed everywhere. But I'm going to drink a Lervig. Big old 500ml can. It is the Field Trip Kviek IPA, 7.4%. It looks like this. It's a fridge. Looks like a fridge, but a portal to a nice place in the mountains from Santa Forest. There's no flavour text on this apart from the hops, which are Cryo Laurel, Cryo Simcoe, Enigma, and Citra, brewed with Norwegian Voskevik yeast. I haven't had a Lervig beer for fucking ages.
Yeah, me neither. Actually.
And I not down the road, saw this one at Bottle and Books when I went up there last week, and thought, oh yeah, Lervig, definitely, that's what I want.
Yeah, makes sense.
So rather than just getting moisture absolutely everywhere, I shall pour. Lucy's told us about her Bundobust Pale as well. She's also disappeared off, probably to the toilet. So we'll come back to you, Adol.
Yes. It is. I think you can kind of tell it's a lot more brown. It's a little lighter in color than the last one.
Yeah.
Oh, it smells really nice. I'm actually surprised because there's like a peak of sweetness on the nose, given that this doesn't have lactose in it. What is that? So it's like this light milk chocolate, really light malted, quite round taste. It's just this peak of a sweetness, like almost like a white sugar sweetness, but not quite as. My brain is a saccharin. That doesn't help. Like it's like the clear sweetness, like it's
Okay.
not like Demerara or like maple or whatever. Like it's just sweet, but it just isn't the peak of like white sugar.
Sure.
It's just the like cleanliness or the clarity of that. Like it's a very cleanly sweet hit, but it's a couple steps below that what you would describe as like, oh yes, that is sugar. Yeah, and those malts just rounded out. It's a very, very nice, luxurious. I want to say it's a luxurious nose. It's just like the malts are all smooth and blending together. Oh, it's more effervescent than the last beer, which it really is helping it open up on the taste buds. Here it's much more. I think it said coffee notes. I don't know if it did, but it is much more roasted coffee notes. But also coming with that is like it's that acridity. It comes with roasted coffee sort of notes and stouts. It's bitter. But it's not bitter from like high cacao nib chocolate bitter. It's like that slightly acrid bitterness. I'm wondering if it's because the lactose in the last beer has made my palate a little sweet, so we'll see if I adapt to this. But right now it's just like it's a little a little too acrid. I like the texture of it, and I really like it's like a more effervescent. It's making the 6% feel a little fuller. I really like the finish. Just got all those nice coffee, slightly chocolatey, but mostly coffee-ish notes. The whole thing is reasonably subdued. Having said that, um, but it's leaving my mouth dry, and like the finish doesn't have that acridity, but because the main part of the like start of the taste is like a little acrid, and then it finishes dry. The sweet spot, the not so sweet spot, is like when the finish kicks in before my mouth dries out, where I'm not getting the acridness, I'm getting those other coffee, slightly chocolatey tastes in. But the problem is, they're still happening in the finish, but I'm preoccupied with my mouth is dry, so I can't really just sit and enjoy the longer finish.
Yeah.
But maybe I'll get acclimatized. I really hope that acridity, again, my palate gets used to, because it's really getting in the way of all these interesting tastes. It's just like, oh, there they are. So I'm kind of sandwiched on this beer of like the point I really like isn't lasting long enough, but I will let you know if it changes.
Yeah, perfect. Nice. This field trip reminds me very much of the Deya beer. We're talking about Deya a lot this week, but of the Deya beer last week, which was called Written in Dust. It has that same kind of really ripe melon flavour to it. It's got that same sort of earthiness to it, but it's a little bit thinner. So everything is coming through a little bit weaker than it was in the Deya beer, which was, you know, big full flavour, a little bit sort of thick. And I don't think that was a huge. It wasn't like an 8% beer. I mean, maybe it was. I can't remember whether it was a dipper or not. Maybe I didn't write it down. But this feels very similar, but just a little more restrained, which I think I like more than the big, bold feeling of these flavours. And it's just this combination of flavours which I think I'd prefer to be a little bit lighter, which this Lervig is delivering. But the nose is incredibly light. It's, you know, a pretty standard sort of look for an IPA. A little more straw than the previous beer. And it kind of works through those flavours quite quickly. So you've got a little bit of that ripe melon, a little more of an earthy note, but deep down kind of in this is a slightly more floral flavour as well. So there's a little bit more of a sort of floral, not quite perfumey. It's not quite as sort of harsh as that, but just underneath everything there is that, and it's maybe a little bit sort of citrusy. Again, maybe a little bit of orange may have lasted over from the last bit, but this feels a little bit orange as well. So there's a lot kind of going on in here. Whilst it sort of hits similarly to that Deya, having that kind of ripe melon flavour, having those earthy notes, it just does a little bit more, even though it's all a little bit lighter. And so there's that floralness, there's a little bit of orange going on, and that kind of earthy note is maybe a little bit more grassy kind of towards the end as well. So everything in this is quite light. Doesn't feel like 7.4%. It could easily pass as 5 or 6, a much lighter kind of beer, and it's just very, very easy to drink. Whilst it's in a 500ml can, you know, a little bit more than the 440 I just drank, it's probably going to go back a little quicker than the Dig did, and that went back pretty swiftly. But this has got that kind of not refreshing taste to it, but because it's a little bit lighter, it just feels that little bit fresher, perhaps that little bit easier going back. So it's kind of, all of the flavors are still there, but I still want to go into it again. You know, that floral, that little bit of citrus, a little bit of orange is kind of left over. That grassy, earthy note fades quite quickly, and I'm left with these initial flavors that kind of kicked in first. But I'm still getting them now, and I want to go back to it. I want to have that kind of a full flavour running through. So yeah, excellent, and it's going to absolutely fly back. So who knows, Lucy? Maybe it will be a 3-beer podcast. We shall see.
I went downstairs and got one. So.
Just in case. Perfect.
But I'm sure there's I have the box here. I'm sure there's another stout.
Oh, there'll be a warm stout in there somewhere. Yeah.
Don't even chill it. Just drink it as it is.
Yeah.
Perfect. Good. Let's move back into games then. For the last half of the episode, and I'm going to jump in because I've got a game which I feel I should talk about, but unfortunately, I think it's going to be mostly negative.
No, that happens.
It does. We got a code which I took for Lost at Sea, which is from Studio Fizbin. We got it through Head Up, who are the publishers. And I'm just having a quick look on Steam at what Studio Fizbin have made. You don't get Studio Fizbin, it goes straight to Head Up. So I would assume that this might be their first, at least Head Up published game without, or at least Steam game perhaps, without me going to Google to have a look anymore. But Lost at Sea it's a walking simulator, which usually I enjoy. I enjoy walking simulators, but this kind of assails Lost at Sea.
Yeah,
it almost assails the senses instantly. It's this, like, I don't know. They basically, it's a walking simulator around an island, and you're from what I can guess so far, you're a mother talking about the son she has lost, and you start out on a boat at sea, and then wash up on the island, and you're walking around the island using this compass that you have to find items. You then take those items back to these diorama style areas, and once you put the item in the diorama, it will give you a little bit of story and some exposition about this, about the mother's kind of feelings and sort of what happened and things like this. But it feels very kind of sluggish when you're walking around the island. The island itself is a pretty standard kind of aesthetic, but there's so many kind of textures going on. There's so much happening in terms of it trying to change between day and night and different kind of light levels and things, that it's one of the first games when I first put it on, I felt sick. It just absolutely hammered the senses, just throwing all of this colour and stuff at me, with it being like textured but not a great amount of like depth to it and stuff. So it just felt.
I'm just looking at the screenshots on Steam, and it's like somehow really bright colors but washed out at the same time.
Yes, yeah,
right?
absolutely,
like,
yeah.
It's like,
oh gosh,
like
someone forgot to turn down the filter.
Well, so like the
Just
first
put
couple
the gamma
screenshots,
down
I was
a
like,
bit.
oh, it feels like someone thinks that their game should be in HDR, but that's actually not it. That's like the opposite. When people abuse HDR, which is a photographic technique where you take three pictures of the same thing, one underexposed, one overexposed, and one properly exposed, and then you use software and you merge them and you get way more detail than you could possibly get with a single shot, because you're getting the blacks as good as they could be and the whites as good as they could be and the balanced shot, and you're smashing them together with a magic algorithm. But when you see these like surreal shots on Instagram or on the internet and stuff of it was abused a lot like 10 years ago in like ads for like vacation places or whatever, or someone like where it's just like, this looks fake, and it's like, this is clearly a picture of something in the real world but kind of looks CGI. Guaranteed you that's the abuse of HDR. And I was thinking, and this is the opposite though, because it's low dynamic range, high color. It's like saturation has been boosted.
Yes.
But there's no
Absolutely.
contrast in these images.
Yep,
like
completely
you
that.
don't have the dynamic range, so it's like kind of that's why it makes it feel washed out, even though the colors are yelling at you.
Yes, that's why I say it doesn't feel like it's got any depth to it. It just the kind of your first kind of instance about being on the boat is fine because the island is way off, you're in the sea and it's the sky, and so everything is kind of okay. But as soon as you wash up on that island and you move into the first space where the dioramas are, which is this big like pillow fort full of oversized toys and all of this, very kind of abstract sort of stuff, and I was just like, oh my god, this is just too much. It is just too much for me.
Maybe take some acid, then play it.
Maybe not acid. Maybe have a smoke, have a bit of weed, just to calm everything down a little bit. Slow yourself down. But it's not just this aesthetic which they've gone for, which has put me off. I've only played about an hour of this game because this is kind of all I could take of it. But it's a walking sim where you're guided by a compass to go and collect these items, and these items will then come with a puzzle, and the puzzles are pretty basic. One of them was, here's a balloon, okay, walk over to the balloon. Oh cool, I got the balloon. What happens next? Nothing's happened. Okay, cool. Oh no, the balloon's popped back up again. Right, what have I missed? Walk over to the balloon goes away. Look around, and behind me another balloon has appeared. Oh, alright, fine, I'll go over to that balloon. Look around, another balloon has appeared. And you get to the balloons and you walk around 5 or 6 balloons which float kind of away, so you've got to move to them, and then the item that you wanted appears, which you can take back to kind of the diorama. Or one which was incredibly frustrating, where this kind of orb of light was travelling along, and I had to get in front of it and stop these red orbs from intercepting it, but then also knocking down walls on the path of this orb, and I kept failing because the white orb sped up. So I'm like, well, I can't preempt where it's going to go. I've got a wall here and a wall here. Which wall is it going to go towards? So I had to do it several times to understand the pathing of where the orb would go, to know what I had to kind of do, which again, incredibly frustrating when I'm on my sort of like 10th go, and I'm thinking, no, I definitely hit the right ones. It's just like, no, because suddenly this orb speeds up, so it's caught me up already, so I got to preempt then that a little bit more. There is one saving grace. And I do not know why they didn't make an experience out of this completely. Probably because it was far too labour intensive. But when you put an item back into this diorama, when you place a bag next to another bag, and it's and the voice actor, and it's well voice acted as well, and she goes through kind of a bit of dialogue about what her life was like, or her son, or something like that. It comes up with this beautifully drawn screen, and if you go onto Steam and you watch the trailer for it, one of these does pop up, and it's well drawn, and it's a little bit animated in terms of like the characters popping sort of into it and things, and it's beautiful. But it's just to see this, it's almost like a little reward for having walked around this awful island, doing these boring and frustrating puzzles, to then just see a nice bit of kind of key art. It isn't enough, and the story hasn't dragged me in quite enough yet. It's interesting enough that I'd like to know what happens, but I think for me it's kind of just find a YouTube clip of all of the dialogue and in order and see what the story is, just because you're passively listening to it all anyway once you've done the puzzle and you've walked to the space you need to be at. So it doesn't quite do enough, and it doesn't do what it's trying to do well enough to keep me wanting to jump back into it. I think the hour I've spent with it is probably it for me.
That's fair. I mean, just look. If it made you physically ill,
Yeah.
So the first time I tried it, I mean, I probably only played it for 20 minutes the first time. And yeah, I mean, not even that, probably 10 minutes. Once I got onto the island and started walking around, I was like, whoa, this is not good. I do not feel good. It's just too much. I then went back to it and maybe played again for another 20 minutes. And then I've had a third session, which was maybe 30 minutes. So I've progressively been able to do a little bit more each time. But just walking between, going on my compass, I need to find the item over here. Cool. Just walk across the island. Nothing really happens unless the random black orb spirit thing decides to spawn and then just kill you and start you back at the last place that you started at.
Right.
And gives you no understanding about how you could avoid it or get past it or anything like that. And the next time you walk up there, it's not like it appears in the same place. You might get another 200 yards towards where you need to be, and then suddenly it will appear. Like it's just a bit of a mess, really.
I mean, that seems to be borne out because like there's only a few reviews on Steam. There's one really extensive one which is basically saying very similar to you on a not recommended by MZ Cookies, which they basically said like conclusion, as much as it pains me to be so assuredly negative on a developer's personal project, I simply cannot recommend this at all. From its extremely poor performance, lackluster story, repetitive fetch gameplay, and unattractive environment, there are no real redeeming qualities. Top with a hefty price tag of 25 Australian dollars for a story that completed it in 1 to 2 hours.
Oh, wow.
I would strongly recommend giving this one a miss. So I think you're almost done.
Yeah, I mean, so I found the second area. I think there's only 4. And there's 4 items per area that you've then got to walk off to find to sort of bring back. So, yeah, I mean, I spent an hour. I'm probably a third of the way through, I would think, in terms of what the compass is suggesting to me. But I just, I'll just watch the 10-minute YouTube video with all of those lovely, very, very well detailed and animated screens that are kind of the reward for finding the item. So yeah, it's just, again, it's not one I can recommend. And usually walking simulators do need something else to them, and this just doesn't have that. It is walk, get thing, walk back.
Yeah,
do
I mean, the other thing
frustrating puzzle
is like our indie game Pulse gave it a recommended. But they said, but their last paragraph is, I'm on the fence with this one. On the one hand, it's a deeply thoughtful game that will surely lead to plenty of personal introspection and empathy for others. On the other hand, it is a game which took me about 2 hours to complete, and I can confidently say that 1.5 of those hours were spent walking.
Yeah.
And that just sounds... It sounds like if 1.5 hours is transit of a 2-hour game, that's bad. I'm fine with walking simulators and having a large chunk of time moving around, but couple that with the fact that the environments sound horrendous, well then you're spending an hour and a half walking through something you don't want to be looking at to get nuggets of gameplay. It just sounds like it's not well balanced.
Completely. I would suggest to everybody who's looking at this game, either go and play, if you want something from this year, go and play Call of the Sea. If you want something sea-based that's kind of a walking sim with puzzles and a lot of good story, great game. Or just go back and play Firewatch. Again, everyone's played Firewatch. Firewatch is fucking fantastic. Just go and play it again.
Yeah,
Done.
I'd probably spend 2 hours playing this and like 8 hours recovering in a dark room.
Mate, as soon as it hit me, I thought Lucy should not play this game.
I will not. I can't.
It was genuinely my first thought. Yeah.
I was watching GDQ and I was like, okay, gonna have to do like the acupressure so I don't get motion sick watching this. I'm like, oh, there's a first-person game coming up. Okay, I'll do a bit of acupressure.
Were you okay?
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, it works actually. So
Nice.
you just like massage. I think it's called like the P6 point or something like that. Just went to reduce nausea.
Yeah, I mean, it's a shame life's all in first person, isn't it? Really, it'd be so much easier if we could just see everything from over the shoulder. But yeah, unfortunately.
Oh, there was a
That'd be
really
disorienting.
cool VR. So back when like VR was pretty new, like the Oculus was like Dev Kit 2, I think was out. There was this dude. I'll try and find this out and tweet it out on the Tanked Up account because it was one of the coolest things I've seen as far as like playing around with things. So the guy got two essentially GoPro cameras and put them at Oculus, like the average Oculus distance, which is what 3D cameras like. If watching 3D movies makes you sick, it's because your eyes are either too wider or less wide, narrower. That's the word. Than the average, to the point where, because the way the 3D movies are filmed, it's like the average distance between people's eyes are this. So we will have a camera filming
Right.
here
Yes.
and a
Yep.
camera filming here. And so if your ocular distance happens to be far enough outside those margins, it just makes you queasy because it's giving you a 3D world that your brain can't process because your brain is developed with different distances. Anyway, this guy got two GoPros at that distance. He put a PC, a small form factor PC that could run VR in a backpack running off of batteries. Oculus DK2 on his head. And then a giant pole coming off of the backpack that had the GoPros mounted so he could be his own Assassin's Creed and see himself in third person, but the 3D VR version of himself in third person. So he would see himself
This
at
would
that,
give
like,
me an
slightly
existential crisis.
Yeah,
I'd just break down into
It's when the game, it's when whatever program he's running glitches and you don't fall through the world but you just rise through the world, so suddenly the body is still there and just going up constantly, like, oh my god, what's happening?
But like,
I've died.
He made the real world
That's nuts.
a
That's
third
fucking
person
nuts.
game that
It's
he
like-
was playing simultaneously as making. It's one of my favorite things of like, wow, tech can be so weird, and I can't even conceptually think about what that would have felt like. And it was
like when
also
you go
one of the-
into a changing room and there's like a mirror behind you and a mirror, and you can see the back of your head, and you're just like, man, I got a big head. That's the kind of existential crisis I have. No,
Oh.
horrific. Who does these things? These things are not meant to happen.
I see, but these are things that are like my bread and butter. I love the idea of these things. This is why this is why I like got the Vive, even though I was leaving my more powerful computer, and then figured out how to make my laptop run a Vive. I'm one of these nonsense people, but
I mean,
don't have
I'm
time to
glad
learn
you're one of
programming.
these nonsense people, but it's amazing. So
I mean, tinkering with tech is fun.
Yeah.
But you are more nonsensical than most
Yeah.
nonsense.
I will not deny that I am a nonsense person.
good, and that's Lost at Sea. Amazing. Let's finish out the episode with you, Lucy. I mean, finish out. We've still got like however long we want to chat about the left.
You
So
can
like,
talk about what you want, Ben.
no, mate, I'm done. That's it. I've
Sure.
had such a I'm because I'm going on holiday tomorrow, so I won't be on next week's episode. It's just the two of you. I've just had a week of absolutely smashing out as much work as possible. So I've only found a few little bits, and I thought I'll do Lost at Sea. And again, I put out my Death Store review up on the site as well. So
Yeah, I read it.
that took me a little bit of time. Thank you. Good.
Very good review.
Thank you.
I played about 2 hours of that.
Okay.
Just a quick question with that.
Hmm.
You play on PC, I'm guessing?
Yes.
How did it run on PC?
Good.
Okay.
No
It
issues
runs
at all.
like ass on Xbox.
Oh,
really?
really?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
it's bad.
Okay.
Mm.
Play it on
I'm
PC.
playing it on the Xbox Series. No, Xbox One X.
Xbox One X. Yeah.
Not the new thingy, but it's like this should really run better.
I'm
And,
surprised it's on One X actually, because I thought it was just a Series S and X game.
It's probably that smart delivery thing where it's like
Mm.
PlayStation. Whereas PlayStation will charge you for a director's cut, There's no director's cut of Death's Door, and you just
Right.
play it because, of course, it should be able to run on a One X. But there's,
I mean,
there's
I would have.
really not a lot going on under
There's
the hood,
not.
as far
I
as
would have
I know.
thought it should
Yeah.
be fine. Absolutely. This
Yeah.
is a game that should be on Switch.
Yeah. So.
But it ran like
Ass.
balls.
Wow.
It's,
Really?
I'm not a frame rate whore, but like I can tell that this is not running at a steady frame rate. It's
Oh, that's no good. This
it's
is
not
the
quite choppy, but it's like every
Weird.
yeah, because like something like Ender Lilies, which playing that before, which is so far like my favorite game of the year.
Mm.
Playing that had frame rate hiccups, but only when you're like. Not even when you're traversing, it's like when you're moving onto like a next screen.
Right. Yeah.
All
Yeah.
that was fluid and everything like that. And that's on a Switch.
Mm.
And that's like, I don't know, I'm just making that comparison because I guess they're sort of similar games in that sense, like hack and slashy, opening up new things. But yeah, it's a bit disappointing, but
Yeah.
sounds like it.
it's good. I am enjoying it for now. I think it's okay. I'm not as high on it as you, Ben, but I think it's a good game.
Yeah. That's fair.
Considering
That's
it's made
fair.
by two people, like
Mm.
that's impressive.
Yeah. Yeah. Completely. I'm very surprised that it is. As you say on the
There'll be a
One X.
patch or something.
Hopefully. I mean, it's been out a couple of days.
Yeah.
So hopefully something arrives for it. But maybe again, like now we're in that next generation, current generation. You're on old generation, mate. It's your fault. You're on the old generation. No, I imagine that was the least optimized version of the game. I would think because it's only come out. It's only come out on PC, but it's only come out on PC and Xbox.
Yeah.
So you would think
if I'm running a base Xbox One from 2013, even that should be able to run on that.
you would think so.
No?
Yeah.
I wonder if it's the lighting engine. Just looking at it, it's the only thing that seems quite like. There's some screenshots that look like it might be, like face lighting instead of baked in.
Yeah.
And that could explain something like the OG Xbox One.
I mean, it is.
OG Xbox One. What the fuck does that even mean? I hate this fucking
stupid naming conventions. I don't even know what it is.
the thing
box
Lucy
there.
has
thing
struggling
with
with
an X
playing
on it.
game.
Yeah.
If it's dynamic lighting, that could be it. Because like obviously the textures are nice and the aesthetic is nice, but like
I think the
There's not a lot of
screenshots
detail.
to this game are big. Like playing it in person, it's like a bit grimy.
Right.
I think it looks nicer in screenshots. It's nice looking, but it's got it's a bit.
Oh mate, running on the
On a big
PC,
screen.
running on the PC, it looked fucking
It's
beautiful.
good, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, then
Oh.
you've got a decent graphics card.
Yeah.
I would guess that they're doing the thing like it used to be that you could never have dynamic lighting, but now in a lot of games, because we have the raw power, like smaller games are just defaulting to it because it looks better. Like even
Yeah.
those diorama games we've been playing,
Yes.
those are the reason why they look so good is because it's dynamic lighting on fixed assets, which is really
Yeah.
easy to render now with modern graphics cards. But now if you have something where it's like simple textures, not a lot of dynamic movements, but moving, that's no longer in the sweet spot of we can assume everything can run it, right? Because when you are controlling the camera like that, like things have to render even though you're not shooting things or Twitch running, you're still like taxing the system.
Yeah.
You see, this is where the thing that Xbox are meant to be pushing would come in helpful, where I could play on my PC, but you can't. You have to buy separate Windows 10 versions. So,
Wait, what?
guys, the hell.
I didn't know this.
So,
I haven't
some
looked into
games
it.
you can. I can't remember. It's not. What is it? Play anywhere.
Play Anywhere, yeah, Play Anywhere.
Yeah.
Whatever it is. Where I can just download it on my PC or my whatever the thing, the box with an X on it. I can just play it on either one. But I played Ori and the Will of the Wisps like just seamlessly between the two. It's like, why can't all games do
But
that?
again,
Doing it-
a Microsoft Studios game. So
Yeah,
it will
but
it
some
will
some
it
are
will
like
bake in all of that tech,
third-party
right?
games
Some do, and
do
I
that as
imagine
well.
that there's a possibility that Play Anywhere is much more like, you know, Games Pass or PS Plus or something that Microsoft are giving developers money for them to be optimized to be Play Anywhere, because the amount of people that kind of like double dip on games can't be insignificant enough to developers to not think about that kind of thing. They're like, well, no, we know that people will want to play this, and we'll release it on PC, we'll release it on Xbox now, and we know that in 6 months' time, people who have played it might pick it up on Switch if we release it on there, or in a year's time might pick it up there, or we release
No need for Switch now. No need for the
oh
double
no, oh
dipping when you
shit,
got
no, you can't
everything
double dip now,
on
no, there's no point.
Steam.
Yes,
Yeah,
exactly.
Steam
You got the
Deck.
Steam Deck, yeah.
Fucking
I'm
Switch
gonna
killer.
Yeet my Switch into the sun when that.
Run Windows 10 anywhere, play Xbox Edition on the Steam Deck, and then why would you own a PlayStation Switch?
Yes, but that's what I was gonna say, Ben. Like,
Yeah.
talk about what you want, because A, it's hard, so I'm not playing games. B, working. And C,
Yeah.
I'm just not playing anything anymore until I got a Steam Deck, so I can play them all in bed.
That's fair. That's
Yeah.
absolutely fair.
Not playing
I mean,
single game for the rest of the year.
if you have not, I mean, I've got a couple of things that I can just talk to you guys about and elicit some conversation through. If you have nothing to chat about.
I only finished End of Lilies, and I'll probably go into more detail when we've got. It's high up there on my list. It's probably the best game I've played this year. So.
Something that will come back up at the end of the year.
Yeah. So you're going to be gone for 2 weeks.
No, only one week.
Oh, okay.
It's only 1 week. I'm only disappearing. I know. I'm only disappearing to the countryside for one week to get away from all of the diseased people. But I mean, yes, there's been a couple of other instances where I have tried to play some things. I did buy today or yesterday, maybe yesterday, Gravity Rush 2.
Oh.
Because I love Gravity Rush. Gravity Rush was fantastic. And the second one.
One of the reasons you should own a Vita.
Well, you don't need to. It's on PlayStation 4.
But it's such a good Vita game.
Did Gravity Rush 2 come to Vita?
Yeah.
I mean, they're talking about handhelds. I mean,
Why get a Steam Deck when you can get a Vita?
There was a game that came to Vita, or it's coming to Vita. It was like
the 20th came out. No, Russian Subway Dogs. It came out on the 20th because the 20th of July of this year was the last day anyone could ever release a game on Vita. Because that's the last date PlayStation have decided, or Sony have decided to stop supporting the console from now on. So that is it. Now the Vita is officially dead.
But they didn't. They pulled back on the closing of the stores.
So yeah, they've pulled back on the store. You can still buy games. There will just be no further releases.
Yeah, I think you can still buy PSP games as well. I think they flip-flopped on that. I think it's just you can't buy in-game currency or some crap like that. But who would do that for anything? Especially on the Vita. You've got to be a special kind of weird to want to do that.
I mean, there's so many games that came to the Vita which then got ported over to the PS3 or the PS4 as well. Oh yeah, yes, exactly, or PC. So it's like I don't think there are that many Vita exclusive games. Lots of first party ones that are exclusive games, which you'll never get. Killzone something, Uncharted something, other game something. Okay.
Yeah.
So there is stuff, but you can get so many other things kind of elsewhere, isn't it? But I'm glad they did reverse the the store
decision,
so people can and it would be great if that just lasts forever now.
Yeah,
Uh,
because we're not quite there with emulation, so I don't want to pay PlayStation any money. So for
Yeah.
now, wait until the emulation's there and then get rid
That's
of
fair.
it. I don't mind.
Yeah, completely. I did see someone put up that there is a Switch emulator that you will probably just be able to download on Steam Deck,
Yeah,
and now you have your Switch Pro as well because you
Why
just
not?
buy
Yeah,
the
but-
fucking Steam Deck.
But like, there's no way the Steam Switch emulator is optimized
Sure.
Probably won't run
through
on
a
it,
win
yeah.
through a version of Windows running on the Steam Deck.
It'll need a lot of power.
That's why like even the N64 emulator like took forever to be useful because it wasn't that they couldn't emulate the games, they just couldn't emulate the games well because
Yeah.
the hardware was so different that
Yes.
you needed to crunch too many numbers to make it work.
And it's,
'Cause I-
big power, sync as well to emulate games properly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Steam Deck probably won't be able to do that.
Lucy, you got yourself as well. You haven't got it yet, have you? But you ordered a Steam Deck, didn't you?
Yeah, I put my reservation now.
Mm.
I think Lucy
Shipping,
paid
yeah.
£5 to have the privilege of being in queue to potentially pre-order the Steam Deck.
I think if you've got a reservation, you can.
Yeah,
You-
you're not
you
going
will
to get
get-
turned
you will
down
get-
for a pre-order, but you
Yeah.
haven't actually pre-ordered. You've
No.
pre-ordered. Yeah.
So
my
actually,
expected
the-
availability is I think Q1 2022. So
Amazing.
It's,
Well,
it's come forward. Who knows?
You're on the list. It's good. This is actually pre-ordering. So when we talk about pre-ordering in
Yeah.
games, and we've talked about this before, you don't pre-order a game. You just order it, and when it's
Yeah.
available, they send it to you. This is pre-ordering because you
thing
haven't
is, you
yet
can- you
paid
can-
money to actually get
I
it.
paid the £5, but I can cancel that and get my money back. at any
Exactly.
time, so.
You have just paid
Yeah,
money.
You've put a
You've
deposit.
put a very small deposit down. You have pre-ordered something
Yeah.
because you've got in before the order is available to be able to make. Whereas if you go on and you buy a game 5 days before it's coming out, you've just ordered it.
Yeah, you just bought that.
You just
correct.
bought it.
Uh,
You're
You
done.
ordered it with not Amazon Prime shipping, right? It's taking you 5 days to get you.
Yeah. It's dumb, and I hate it when games do the we're gonna give you a 10% discount if you pre-order, and then it goes away, on day one.
Mm,
It's like, don't do that. Well, I understand why they do that, but I don't, because
yes.
except with actually Death's Door, I did pre-order, but I used Microsoft points, so
Oh,
they were
nice.
expiring, so I was like, whatever.
Yeah.
Like, even if it's terrible, I didn't pay for it. Yeah, it's annoying because it's like let the review come out. Once if it's broken or like
Completely.
it doesn't run
Yeah.
well,
Yes.
like it doesn't on Xbox. That's let me get it clear. It's not a game-breaking bug or anything. It just runs a bit poorly. It's not anything that I can't play through. I'm just saying, But yeah, it's like it's pre-order crap, pre-order culture, and game industry is just toxic and crap.
Do we get into that now?
I just hate it.
I mean,
it is
given that
fucking
you
awful.
just pre-ordered a hype piece of technology from a company who has only failed at hardware in the past,
I know.
are you
but-
really the one who should be
Yes.
commenting on pre-order culture?
Absolutely, I'm going to stay on this high horse that I'm on. Don't pre-order anything, including tech,
Especially tech.
unless you me, and then real stuff.
I mean, if it ends up being good, you're gonna be one of the few people who won't have to buy it on eBay because everyone else who isn't Lucy who pre-ordered it is already selling their spot on eBay for 200 quid more than the thing is
That's
worth.
fucking insane.
But that's the thing. It's like this is a pre-order way. It's like I can get my money back if I want to.
Well, not this 5 quid.
I can. No.
Yeah,
if
yeah, you
don't-
can,
if
yeah,
you wanna
yeah, yeah.
cancel
Oh,
your
even the 5
reservation-
quid? I
Yeah.
thought it was a deposit.
No.
But you can cancel it. It's a reservation fee, but you can cancel if you don't want it.
Oh, okay.
It's like I can risk £5.
Yeah, yeah.
You know.
No, yeah, that's what I'm saying. But I'm saying the 5 quid is theirs.
Mhm.
That's all I was
But
saying.
for now, they'll be earning interest on it until I reclaim my £5 or whatever.
Yeah.
So.
So I thought the £5 was just going to be theirs if you pulled out, like a deposit.
No, you can get it refunded.
Oh, that's good.
Probably
Then-
only a
then
Steam
anyway,
credit.
if I'd known that, I probably would have.
For
Yeah.
hardware, it's like fine. Like if you pre-ordered Xbox or a PlayStation, it's like you've got your thing or whatever.
Mm.
Yeah.
Usually these things, you know, if it's that bad, there'll be a product recall if it sets your house
Well,
on
yes,
fire.
yeah, or a
Uh,
patch.
But also, like one of the nice things about this, so if I'd known I could just have, well, and if I was paying attention to the timing, I probably would have thrown £5 at this as well, because the big gamble with consoles is, will the library entice you? You only know 4 things that are coming out, and none of them are out yet. Especially with this generation, right? Like there was just
Yeah,
no
true.
launch lineup.
Yeah.
That's why pre-ordering the Xbox or PlayStation was a gamble. But with the Steam, it's like the Steam Deck. It's, do you
But with
want
the Steam
something that
Deck-
can play PC games, and actually those PC games can be the ones you own, and it's gonna, like, even if it's kind of crappy, if you really like your older games, like, to be honest, like a Steam Deck that could play some of these indies and like give me a way of playing the Lego games that I own on PC. I own almost
Ooh.
all of them.
Yeah.
Like in my bed. Yeah, actually, I'd pay Switch prices for access to that caliber of library that I already own, because games that like especially the platformy games or the adventure games I've like started for streaming, for example. If I the ones I've picked up again that I've like streamed for the site are the ones on the Switch, because it's like, oh yeah, like there's a couple of these like adventure games. Yeah, I grab the Switch, I sit in bed and I play, and I'm like, oh yeah, that game exists. And so this, for me, the Steam Deck would be like, oh right, like, hey, it's been a bit, let me open that save of the Fermi Paradox, see what's going on, because when I'm low-key chilling, I do like having it in my hand. I like being able to lounge
Same.
while, like, hey, that game I played 3 weeks ago, I kind of don't remember. I have to sit in front of my, like, at my desk and play it, and that's enough for me to be like, I don't remember it enough. I'll just watch some shitty YouTube on my tiny laptop instead of my giant TV, which is meters away, because I have to sit in this chair or that couch.
Yeah. It's
But
just
actually lounging
comforting.
in bed is easier, and so like that's why like something like the Steam Deck, and that's actually why like friend of the show slash former Out of Liveser, Dave, pointed out, like, this must have been 5 years ago, like right when I first moved back. There was this little tablet that
Yeah, I bought one of those. But
yeah, I
it
did
just
too.
Didn't work well. Yeah.
It didn't. Yeah, he claimed it
Yeah.
worked well, and it was a little 10-inch tablet that had a decent processor, quote unquote, and it came with basically a harness that had 2 little sticks that had all the Xbox controls that were sort of tubes. It was you held 2 cocks.
Yeah.
I mean,
Pretty
it wasn't a great
two
input
move
mechanism.
Controllers. Yeah.
Yeah, because they were just like these like static cylinders with all the buttons, but it fit into, and then there was like, basically it's like cylinder, little arm, the frame that the tablet settle in, and then the little arm, and then the second one. It was fine. But like, and the first few games I played were fine, and then it was like, oh, this is running really choppy, and the only reason it was like, oh, this is such a great idea because it's like a tablet that I can slot in and have better than the Switch. Like it was more the controls when the tablet wasn't suffering were way more responsive, and they were the full Xbox layout, obviously not in the same spaces, and I actually felt really good holding it out and doing the dual stick, having the 2 triggers, etc. It felt really good for the 2 games that it worked well on.
Yeah. I played like maybe 1 game, and that was like an adventure game on it, and it's like I couldn't play anything else on it. I turned that thing on. So I turned it on probably about 6 months ago, and I was thinking, what could I do with this?
I also did that, and then it was like, do you want to upgrade to Windows 10? Because it was a Windows 8 device, and I was like, sure. And and then as soon as it did that, I was like, oh, I think that was a big mistake, because there's no way it can run, like, there's no way, like, I think I've downgraded the library it could have played, because on like out of date Windows 8, it probably could run shit, but like it's not gonna.
Yeah, I
Even
think I
even the
downloaded
modern Steam
update,
client
yeah.
though, I think would make it struggle. Like that is one of the things that we don't talk about when we talk about PC games. Like it's fine, but it's actually all of these things have a client behind them, and like the Steam updates every like 2 weeks now. It feels like it's like I
Yeah,
actually don't
yeah.
think an old computer can run Steam and a game.
Agreed. Yeah.
But if I just
Yeah.
needed to run the game, it could run it.
Yeah. I was thinking, could I get like Game Pass on this or something? And yeah. I was like, what should I do with this? And in the end, it's just so cumbersome to use. I was like, maybe I wouldn't do anything with it.
I was
But
thinking, maybe I'll put it on Facebook Marketplace for like 25 quid or something. And then I like put it down somewhere or somehow, and then I would just absentmindly put something on top of it, and it like corner punched the screens. The
Oh,
glass actually broke. The glass didn't shatter. There's just like an actual bit of like
yeah.
clearly the glass is impacted. I'm like, oh, I can't sell that anymore. An out-of-date tablet with a slightly broken screen. It's now dead. Cool. I guess I'll just put this in the corner. Fuck. And it was literally the day I'm like, I should. And the only reason I had it was I was like, I like reset the OS. I'm like, I will just put this on. If I get 20 quid, 25 quid, that's fine. Cool. And then I don't even remember what I did. And it was, and like, again, it's not a crack across the screen. It doesn't impact it, but like a picture of it will have this like little white area where the glass is a little broken. I was like, no one's gonna buy it. Well, maybe they will, but like then it's
Well,
like,
when the Fermi Paradox happens and like we're world's ended and we're all looking for batteries and scrap and Android tablets, and there you go. You're on to a winner.
Anywho,
keep all your out-of-date tech just in case.
Yeah, I
Good.
did. Pre-ordering like consoles. And
oh,
stuff
which
like
one
that.
did
I
you
think that's fine.
pre-order?
The smallest one, the cheapest one, because just like this gaming PC that I bought for like $1.5 grand, only just reading to play point and click adventure games on, like from like 30 years ago. Let's be real. And also, it's like expandable storage, so it's like I've got like an SD card in my Switch. They're so cheap.
Yeah.
So I mean, I think that's how they'll get people to get the mid-grade one because of the SSD. But like, I don't think the SSD will give performance gains for whatever graphic card that's in there. But I mean, I'm not looking to play.
I'm not looking to play Control on.
Yeah.
Yes, I can play.
I think
it
that's
on
how
my
people are gonna.
PC. Yeah.
Like, and I think the people who are buying it are going to be people who have a PC that can play those games, but they're going to want, because they're used to being like, well, I got to have the SSD. I know how good that is. But I think that's the one you should probably go for.
I didn't want to spend the extra money because.
Well, again, and I mean, for me, that's
what's like 100 quid extra.
110.
Yeah.
But it's 350 to 459, so it's like it's almost half again.
Yeah.
Not quite. That's like it's 140% or
yeah, it's another
like
third on top.
That I really truly want running on there is like Disco Elysium, which didn't run well on like my Surface, and it's like, okay, that needs to be a PC game. But when someone was playing it in like their advert for it, I was like, yes, that's the game I've always wanted to play. I don't want to sit at a PC playing a CRPG for 90 hours. I want to play that in bed, have the text right up in my face. And I was like, yes, that is the game.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was going through my library and it's like, yeah, I'll wait to play that. I'll wait to play that.
I mean, I think the key is the one thing that the SSD might do is give you, because it'll have a different motherboard layout, is it'll give you more longevity of the thing, I guess, but
depends what their plan is to make newer models of this and like
but I was gonna say, like, at that point it's hilarious as like Microsoft is like, what if consoles were just PCs, and now Steam's like, what if PCs were just consoles?
I'm just gonna take the graphics card out of my PC and just glue it onto the Steam Deck and
it'll work.
And then you're gonna get robbed by some sort of Bitcoin miner.
Did you see that the Ukrainian
using all the PS4s?
FIFA football.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, that says a lot about the. I kind of wish I stayed in economics just so that I could start writing about the economies in video games. Like originally, before I went to philosophy, I thought if I went to grad school, I would write about using MMOs as models, like as economic models.
Mm.
Because again, this was late 2000s. It was like, oh, I could see that they have to do things to like curb inflation, etc., in a way that's not like the world, but there are other things that you could like, if you manage to team up with one of these games, you could like test economic theory in a really interesting way because it's still human driven and the humans care, so it's not the problem with most simulations. That's really interesting.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
And now we have these actual economies with currencies that like for the people involved fit most of the requirements of currencies, but obviously they're not real. But like that also is a really interesting modeling thing, where we could get a lot of information, but also secretly it would be like, so this definitely is currency, so this is definitely gambling.
But now we have stupid crap like a whole GameStop thing, and someone buying a copy of Skyrim on Xbox 360 for like £600.
Mate.
Money means nothing nowadays.
Wait, what? I didn't hear about this.
Someone bought like in the plastic copy
Oh.
of Skyrim on Xbox 360.
Mate, someone brought a copy of like The Legend of Zelda for like 650,000 or
I
something.
can get
like
that though. I can understand that because it's
Skyrim is available on fridges.
yeah, £600 on Xbox 360.
Some people got nothing to spend their money on.
So do you know?
Give it to me.
Yeah, well,
Do you know?
10-year-old game. It's not even. It's not 30 years
Yep.
old. Like
The
you
problem
know,
is people who
it's a
got
hassle.
obscenely rich that are in their 20s just know that you pay a lot for nostalgia, but they don't get that 40-year-olds paying for something that isn't widely available because it wasn't available in the digital age is a different thing than paying for what's ostensibly in the not day one, the day zero version of your
Yes.
Steam game.
yes.
Which comes back to my other point. Like, don't pre-order games because it's like you just. It's not like they're gonna run out of them.
Yeah.
Oh no,
They're just
no, wait.
The
Did you
Final
hear?
Fantasy
Did you? Yes,
14
yes,
thing. I
yes.
think they all linked to that, didn't they?
Final Fantasy
They can
14
just
ran
hit
out of
a
keys.
They can hit a random number generator and make.
You would think so. Yes, you would think so. But MMOs have got like server capacity and all of that kind of stuff to think about. You know, they go, well, we've got 10 servers, we can fit X number of people on, so ultimately we can fit 10 times that number of users.
Yeah.
That's the keys that we can have. But something to do with like a World of Warcraft streamer switched over to Final Fantasy 14 and dragged a load of people over with them, which just knocked the amount of users on Final Fantasy 14, which made them run out of keys. Like they just hadn't. I assume they just hadn't generated enough. That was it.
Yeah, it's literally like some person's job to do the thing, and they're like, "Well, here's our curve of users. Oh, it's an old game, so it's."
One guy just sat there like, "Yes."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
Why pre-order games are not going to?
So
yeah, and for that weekend he was like, "Oh God, yes."
He got paid overtime for that one week, and everything was fine.
yeah, everything's fine. So the one thing, so I'm going back to Canada next month, and I think I've mentioned this before on the podcast, but I still have that I got at a garage sale, a in plastic Super Mario World SNES cart. It's at my parents' house, and I actually think like this year might have made it worth more than the like $100 it was last time I checked.
What? It's only 100.
I mean, I don't know. I'm just making a number up.
I would have thought that would fetch you a decent price.
$40,000.
Yeah. Okay.
Who knows? Who knows what it will be?
I mean,
saying that you're going to become like a sheikh now, like an oil tycoon sheikh. You're going to buy us out.
I mean,
When
I
he
think
comes,
the
he comes
whole-
the first week back on the podcast. He's like, eFootball is now it's moved. It's moved to you don't buy it. It's free to play, and they just update the rosters. I bought it. That's mine now. I haven't bought a football team. I just bought an entire platform to play games on. It's done. I bought
Yes.
Konami. It's okay.
Wait. Oh,
So what will you buy for your riches, Sheikh of Canada?
probably like a mid-tier Steam Deck. I'll get the upgrade. Fuck it.
Oh, good. It's a perfect place, I think, to finish out this week for us. Let's roll back around to beers. Lucy, did you open a third beer?
I did.
What did you
It was,
open?
Holly's Moonraker, which is now in Marks and Spencer,
Oh,
which is surprising.
is that where you got it from?
That's where someone got it from, I believe. Yeah, I think it was Marks and Spencer. I think, yes, it was a Vault City and Cloudwater there in Tesco, isn't it?
Yes.
But, yeah, it was harsher than the Deya beer, but that's just because those are so soft. So it's still good, especially if you can find that in like, supermarket.
Nice.
Light, citrusy, not much else to say. It's a classic Polly's beer.
Fair.
I just drank it without thinking because it's hot.
Yeah, it's fair.
Compare it to other Polly's beers, but in terms of the winner this week, I'm gonna give it to the Premium Bitter,
Oh,
the Worried Dream. I think the other one, the Bundobust, is like perfect for this weather. It like when I went down to put some more in the fridge, some more Deya beers in the fridge. Granted, I've only got like one or two of these, but even so, I would have just grabbed the Bundobust because it's like really soft, really easy, really smooth to drink. But so is the Premium Bitter. It's like, but it has, we don't really get classic bitters from craft brewers or just even when you go to like a pub or something and have like house ale or something, house bitter, it don't taste as good as that. It's
yeah,
like,
that's fair.
yeah, that didn't taste like it had been sat out for a week. Sat under like somebody's ass for
Just
like,
settled in the cellar for a few days before it was tapped. Like, yeah.
just flat. But that was like, it wasn't very carbonated, it wasn't very hoppy, but it was like it had the refreshing quality where it's like you didn't miss that. It's like had that slight citrus undertone to it, even with like the malty and bitter backbone. It was really good beer. Like, I think my next day shop, if they still have those in stock, I'm gonna get some more of those bad boys. Especially
Nice.
for this heat.
Perfect.
Good stuff.
Good. Adel, how about yourself?
Me. I think we're good.
Good.
Despite being the, let's say, a suboptimal stout summer evening, I like them both. I think it's gotta go for the Garden Brewery Coconut and Tonka Bean Milk Stout. The Neon Stout by Varionika was really, the acridity did sort of loosen a bit. So the main like worry I had about it lessened, but ultimately it just wasn't as well rounded. It didn't have the depth of for a stout. So I liked the Varionika by the end for what it was doing. It was doing it really well. That acridity, that even the like slightly drying mouthfeel, it felt by the end of the bottle felt less spat. And I think it might have been just the transition between the two, but it was still kind of like my last sips were just like I am having a stout.
Yeah.
While I remember the last sips of the Garden breweries as like, yes, these are the things going on. I didn't get so acclimatized that it felt flat. So yeah, so it's that stout. So if you are on a 30-degree day hankering for a stout, check out the Gun Brewery's coconut and Tonka bean milk stout.
I do very much enjoy the Garden Brewery's beers.
Yeah,
Where are they from? Not
Czech.
Estonia?
They're all from Czech. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, so
Very
both
nice.
beers are from Czech brewers.
Mhm. Nice.
Check your stouts at the door. I don't know.
Good, perfect. For me, I think I'm going to give it to the Lervig this week. And that's I think just because of the heat. It was fresher. It was just a little lighter than the other beer. It sat very, very well. Even at 7.4%, even being at a higher percentage, it felt lower. It felt more fresh and just easier to go back. The Dig was very nice. It was a really good beer. Dig are fucking fantastic. Pick up their beers wherever you see them because they don't ship out a huge amount.
Yeah, like I don't think I've had a Dig beer in like 2 years. I don't think I've been to their brewery in like more than that.
Yeah.
I need to go back there. I always see them in like, well, not always, but I see them in shops sometimes. I'm like, why are they so expensive? It's like this is down the road, and I feel like I want to support local, but not for that much.
Yeah, and I think this one was a reasonable amount of money. It was more expensive, I think, than the Lervig actually, or they were very close in price.
But it makes sense for you. You're in Bristol.
Yeah, but,
and they're coming from Birmingham.
I mean, one beer coming from Birmingham,
like less than 4 miles,
and one beer coming from Norway, is maybe a little bit different. But anyway, I think it is the field trip for me this week. Both really good beers, and I would recommend people picking both of them up. But yeah, just that freshness that I got from the field trip just pops it up. It is one of those days where like that slight viscosity, that slight thickness from a kind of a slightly bigger beer, even though the Dig was only about 6%, felt a little bit bigger, felt a little bit heavier, and I just wanted something lighter, so that just fit. The field trip just fit me a little bit more this week, I think. So,
Aadil, you were in Birmingham, didn't you guys Dig?
Oh yeah, shit. Where did you go drinking?
Nah, we didn't go to any breweries.
Oh,
we went to Digbeth, but I mean, I didn't make the itinerary. We also went to a place that had bowling and beer pong, and midway through the night, it was like, beer pong feels real weird in the middle of COVID. I mean, it was the day before the walls came down, but it was still like...
Yeah.
This is
I never
weird.
liked playing beer pong because it's like... I've got bad aim.
Well, and playing beer pong in a bar is also a bit of a weird experience.
Well, and they're dead, but so it's weird because like... It's like, here.
What's the name of this place again? I think I know what you're on about.
Rocks... I can't remember.
Oh, is it there? Okay, I think there's several like places that are like golf and like beer pong.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm not a child. I just want to drink. I don't want to play stupid games. Let's like drink. I'm over the age of 18. Yeah.
So it was Roxy Bowling, yeah. So it's like a few bowling lanes, and then on the side it's like parallel with the last bowling lane is like one beer pong station. So beer pong, like standing spot, weird sloped table, standing spot, then a pillar, and then another station because the bowling lane's long enough. That meant that when people went to go to the second station, because we were at the first, they had to like kind of squeeze by us, but also we just watched all the bowling people be non-COVID safe because they were all just in a space together, and it was like, this be weird. I don't know how I feel about this.
It's definitely going to take a little bit of time to
get used to the
world again. Yes, exactly that.
It's and I guess when you've had a few beers, you're probably less. You know, your barriers come down, but understandable.
I mean, that's
like,
one of the worries that
people.
I have about the world opening up.
Yeah, I mean, I'm still wearing a mask, so screw everybody else.
So, yeah, absolutely. Everywhere I go at the moment, still, yeah.
I'll do that till the end of time.
So I've just done some quick Google fooing, and all of the Steam Decks use socketed 2230 M2 modules, which means basically it means it's a non-standard, it's not your standard SSD slot,
right.
but even the low-end one is using the same socket. They've just plugged an eMMCC. They've plugged a slower drive into the slot, which means the motherboard's the same across all the models. So there's no reason to get like
the highest.
Basically, if you're worried if it ends up being slow, like a year in or 2 years in, you didn't buy the best SSD you can of that slot and put it in. And that'll.
Is that just because of the manufacturing or something? What's going on with that?
No, it's literally what they've done is they've made the same footprint for all the models, and then the low tier they've socketed in a non-SSD drive. The mid tier and high tier they socket in SSD drives.
Right.
But the key is it's not, like the Switch and all these other things. Everything's soldered onto the motherboard, so you can't upgrade them. These are upgradable. Those Steam Valves recommends you can't, but they're not soldered, which means you can.
Yeah, you can.
Which means there's no reason to get the mid-grade one unless you want to spend.
Probably avoid your warranty or whatever, but
but like then the only difference is the high-end one has the etched glass screen, which is a thing you presumably can't easily get.
It's like the OLED, the Switch, the Swold.
The Swold,
yeah. Anyway, sorry, I just wanted to say that because, like, if people were thinking, "Oh, I want that SSD," I mean, if like buying the £350 one, if you notice it, by the time it matters for like I was thinking longevity, but by the time you hit the point where like, this MMC drive is not going to be good enough, the SSD drives that you could get are going to be as big as the big one you can buy. For the same price, so that 150 quid you should hold on to, and then a year or two from getting your Steam Deck, buy it. Your warranty's already over after a year. Buy a new drive. It's literally plug and play. That's how drives work. Like that seems like a reasonable thing to do.
Yeah, fair.
Will I be able to play Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade from like 1993 on it?
I don't know. What am I? Steam?
Yes. Can you put GOG on there? Yes. Good. Let's finish there. You can get all of us at Tanked Upcast over on Twitter. We're also Out of Lives Net on Twitter as well, where you can go and see my review of Death's Door. You can also go to Twitch Out of Lives Net, which is where network, in fact, which is where we are now, or where Aadil, who streams weekly as well, where he did stream the Fermi Paradox and has a few more games to play before he takes his summer break over in Canada. So you can go there and see all of that. You can also go to YouTube and Out of Lives Net and see lots of other stuff. See our faces if you listen to us in video form and the beers that we drink or other things that we have put out. I am at Nova_47. Lucy is...
Juicy Loose 9.
Aadil is...
At the Omniarch.
And I think that's pretty much it. Go to outoflives.net to see everything that we put together. It all appears up there on our website as well. Like, subscribe, review, tell your friends, do a dance, have a beer, have a party.
Comment below if you are on the YouTubes.
Oh yeah, do that as well. Comment, like, dance.
Review the podcast if
praise.
On your podcast of choice.
Just move. Just get up and move. That's all people need to do. And they've sat down for the last 2 hours listening to us. They've had a beer. Just get up and move now. It's time to shake the body, get some blood pumping through. And finish your evening with a little rave, and you're good to go. I think that's pretty much it. So for another week, we've been tanked up. Goodbye.
Next week might be interesting. It's the Lucy and Aadil show.
Yeah, another one.
8 hours long.
Yeah, it's going to be another long, rambly thing. But until then, bye.
Perfect. I love that neither of you will have played a game. But it would just be like 8 hours of chat. It'd be amazing.
When the cat's away, the mice will play.
www.outoflives.net